AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I'm Jacob Milham, joined tonight by the illustrious Jeremy Hokius Greco. Jeremy, over, under, am I getting 1 inch of snow tonight? Because apparently the National Weather Service is projecting 1 to 2 inches of snow in the Hampton Roads region. Under? I am going to go with the under as well on that option. So, hey, folks, we have a bunch to talk about on today's episode, but before we get too deep into it, as always, go check out royalsreview.com if you want to stay up to date on things. A good chunk of the things that we're going to be talking about today already up on royalsreview.com. We're not here to just summarize things, but you would know a lot more and a lot more in depth about some of these things if you go check out royalsreview.com. So highly, highly suggest it. All right. Jeremy, thank you so much for sending this list that we're about to talk about over to me, because I did not realize this was this long of a list. The MLB pre-arbitration bonus pool list. Do you have this pulled up still? So if you had to explain this to someone in the elevator ride, how would you explain this list and what the dollar amounts are?
So every team combines to put together $50 million total into a pool. This is as of the last CBA. I don't know if it has to be renegotiated as part of the next CBA or if it would just otherwise continue. I mean, I guess everything gets renegotiated whenever you do a CBA. Yeah. It might be just one of those things where both sides, that worked pretty good. Just leave that exactly the way it is. But basically what this is all the teams, all 30 teams put together money so that there's a $50 million pool. And then that money gets distributed to pre-arb players. So players within the first 2 or 3 years, depending on if they're a super 2, just players who are getting basically the league minimum. They do not have any control or negotiating power as to what their salary will be. This was kind of a big deal. I don't know if this was because of Gerrit Cole, but this was kind of a big deal when Gerrit Cole was in his pre-arb years with the Pirates, and he won a Cy Young award. And then the Pirates said, "Yeah, we'll give you a $1,000 bump up to like $710,000 for next season." And he's like, "I just won the Cy Young. Can't you do any better than that?" But he doesn't have any negotiating power. All he can do is sign it or not sign it and not play and not get any service time. So you got to sign it.
Yeah.
And it was a big, big deal. Not a big deal for this year's sophomore Cy Young Award winner, Paul Skeens, because part of the way this pool works is that there is a guaranteed amount if you win one of the big awards. And that includes $2.5 million if you win the Cy Young. So Paul Skeens was the biggest recipient of the pre-arb pool at almost $3.5 million based on his performance and winning the Cy Young. So they to try and summarize this to a smaller degree with fewer examples, they put all this money in a pool, and then based on player performance, the pool is distributed to all of those players who are in pre-arb who performed particularly well. And that's not, so we're going to talk about some Royals who got this money, and that's not money that the Royals now have to pay out in addition. This is money that they already paid out into the pool that then gets reallocated to their players and to other players.
Right. Which if you think about, maybe the teams have to pay an equal amount into this pool for all 30 teams. Well, the Royals already got their money's worth out of this group. I mean, Maikel Garcia, he's getting nearly $775,000. Noah Cameron, he's north of $600,000 in this bonus pool. You got to go down a little bit further, but you see Stephen Kolek getting a little north of 250,000. Vinny, he is just shy of that 250,000 mark. Like they have some notable guys getting a good amount of money in this bonus pool. And I do go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of the cool things about this pool system, as opposed to forcing the teams to pay it out afterward, is that there's no argument, that we don't have to have an argument about how much did Stephen Kolek earn with the Padres and how much did he earn with the Royals. They both paid in. Kolek collects the money regardless.
Yep. So that's a good point. And I do want to clarify this, or the amount of money that is dealt outside of the awards amounts that you talked about, that's allocated by a WAR formula, according to what AP put out. So I don't know what that formula is. I don't know if it's B WAR. I don't know if it's F WAR. But all I know is
probably some combination.
Probably so. But all it does is this is a monetary amount that recognizes players early on in their career who don't have any bargaining power, really, and it gives them a little bit of money. So I'm all for that.
And I mean, even in the case of, like you said, Stephen Kolek and Vinny Pasquantino kind of lower on the list, that's a significant chunk of change compared to what you get on a rookie salary of about 700, 750, 800. I don't remember exactly where it is right now. But if you tack on another 200K to that, I mean, that's a 25% bonus. That's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to a little bit more Royals specific news. I want to remind folks, because the press release for this came out, some more details came out after our last episode. A Royals rally, January 1st, 2026, out there at Kauffman Stadium. It's the fourth straight year of this event in its current form. I'm blanking on the name of what the Royals had similar to this before COVID.
Gosh.
But I know what they have now is very different than what they had then. Like it wasn't at Kauffman Stadium.
Right. It was a bit more around the area. It was like a bus tour.
Yeah. It was something very different. I haven't gone myself. I've heard mixed reviews over it. I know Kevin O'Brien has a great recap of it whenever he goes out. I think Max went out last year and had a good review of it up on RoyalsReview.com. Royals Caravan, that's what it was. But all you need to know, if you're interested in it, the team has a full site up. I did a little write-up on it this afternoon up on RoyalsReview.com. So if you want a one-stop shop there, you can go find all the details that you need. It's a little pricey. It's a little pricey considering that Bobby Witt Jr. is not advertised as going to be there. And
he must be about to get traded, I guess.
I think so. I think all this, they saw all the chatter with Cole Ragans, like, you know what? Let's up the ante. Bobby Witt Jr. on the move. No, absolutely not. But I thought it was a little surprising that the team's star shortstop was not listed as available for this event. But things can always change, I imagine.
I wonder if that has anything to do, well, Salvi's there.
Yeah, Salvi's there.
I was going to say, I wonder if it has anything to do with the World Baseball Classic, but
you know, I thought about that too, and I think it was until I saw Jack was going to be there. I was just like, well, playing too? No. Yeah, Jack is playing for Team Italy. We still need to come up with an even more Italian nickname for the pairing of Vinny Pasquantino and Jack Caglione, because they're literally going to be playing for Team Italy together. We gotta get on that, Jeremy.
Or if Nicky Lopez will be playing for Italy again this year.
Well, Nicky Lopez is going to be fighting for his spot with the Colorado Rockies. He just signed a minor league contract with them this past week.
You know, we were making jokes about Bobby Witt getting traded, but Cole Ragans is on this list, so
that he is.
Breathe easy. So is Chris Bubich, though, and I see Noah Cameron in the image. I don't see him on the list, but yeah, there he is. Yeah, so maybe the Royals are just going to sign some free agents. I would be okay with that.
I would be just fine with that too. So if you want more details, go check it out up on RoyalsReview.com. We got a link down there at the bottom if you want to buy your tickets to this event. All right, Jeremy. So the big banner thing for this episode that we wanted to talk about, this all stems from the Los Angeles Angels finally ending their marriage to third baseman Anthony Rendon. He signed a 7-year, $245 million contract a few years back. and it has not worked out at all. I think I saw someone do the math, and it came out to like $64 million per FWAR that the Angels were paying Rendon. Like, it was really bad. But they bought out that contract, and Rendon is retiring. I don't want to focus on him too much, but it did bring up a good discussion in the Royals Review Slack about, like, okay, this is kind of an all-time bad free agent contract.
Yeah.
And where do the Royals sit when it comes to their bad free agent contracts? You know, it's a good and a bad thing to have that you don't have any 9-figure contracts or free agent contracts, in your team's history, because then you can't really have bad ones to that scale. But even on the Royals curve, there are still some pretty bad free agent ads or re-signings in some cases. Jeremy, I kind of want to give you the floor first. I gave you my 5, but I want to hear from you. Who are some of the guys that you see and like, yeah, these are really bad deals?
You know, it's interesting. I had some overall thoughts just looking at this list
Okay.
that we got from Cott's Contracts.
Goodness,
Like you
Cott.
said, the Royals have never given out a 9-digit free agent contract. The largest free agent contract in history for the team is Alex Gordon, 4 years, $72 million. And I would argue that was really an extension more than a free agent contract. And that was also probably one of their worst contracts. Looking at the AAVs for their free agents, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total contracts ever issued with 8 digits of annual average value. Every other contract they've ever handed out has been less than 10 million a year, which is, if they do sign a free agent this year, it's going to be one of the top free agent contracts the team has ever handed out. So that's pretty wild, but also like, it makes me go, okay, guys, you say that you're willing to spend to win. Sometimes you got to spend to win. Prove it to me. Actually spend some money on some free agents this year.
Yeah.
You just haven't in the past. But yeah, Alex Gordon is really, these top 3 are all bad. Alex Gordon, Ian Kennedy, Gil Mesh. None of those contracts worked. The Royals got lucky that Gil Mesh retired rather than collect his final $11 million.
Yeah.
When he got hurt. Seth Lugo, this is also weird because Seth Lugo's in here as a 3 for 45, which is what it would have been if he was bad, but it ended up actually only being a 2 for 30. So that belongs lower on the list. Michael Wacha is the 6th highest on here at a 2 for 32, but really that's the 1 for 16 and then an extension.
Yeah.
And so that belongs lower on the list. But it's you know, I just look at this list and my biggest takeaway isn't, man, look at all these bad contracts the Royals have done, or even looking at all these good contracts these Royals have done. Look at how little the Royals have spent in their history. And the Cots actually has a summary up here that says Kansas City's, because they go back to 1991 on this list. So their free agent spending from 1991 through 2025, their total free agent spending is $906 million over 35 years. That's $30 million a year in free agent contracts.
Man, that is not a lot.
No. And it ranks 3rd among all MLB clubs, which tells me that there are 7 MLB clubs that really need to get off their butts, because the Royals are not spending enough, certainly, and other teams are not spending. That should be 30th out of 30, and then the Royals should be embarrassed. But the Royals should be embarrassed anyways. Hopefully that number is going to go way up this offseason, because as we've talked about, you could try and trade your pitching, but then your depth that you're so happy about is gone.
Right. And we are with this. I'll explain a little bit why we're not talking about it to lead off, but we will talk a little bit about the Cole Ragans chatter later on in the episode. So after we said that we were going to talk about this, I was snarky and I said, well, Jeremy, I actually already wrote an article about this last year, about the same exact topic. And it was weird to look at it. And I say weird because when you think of bad free agent deals, you have to really look at just the overall dollar amount and did they meet expectations. I get it. Alex Gordon, he did not meet expectations. If we were doing a top 10, his second deal was amongst the worst in the franchise's history. But that's also because it was the biggest in the franchise's history, and he He was an above replacement level player, I guess, but he still just did not perform very well. So like that's why when I was going down this list, like I had to dig a little deep for some of these names. And it gives me a little bit of solace to see John Sherman so much as like the club owner for a lot of these top deals. I understand that that's what you would expect with today's MLB and just, inflation and rising payrolls, things like that. But I got John Sherman 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. His name is on here 7 times for like the top 17 free agent deals in the team's history. So like that's a pretty good ratio for me in his short time as owner so far. So if you had to, I would go down this list from Cott's contracts, and I think that there is one guy who's amongst these top contracts that stands out as unquestionably one of the worst contracts in Royals history. That's Jose Guillen.
I'm sorry, what's his last name?
I don't know how to say his last name, Jeremy. Can you say his Guillen?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, Jose
I thought that
Guillen.
was a pretty common last name.
No, it is not, but neither is Milham or Greco, and we know how to pronounce that. Yes, Jose Guillen signed ahead of the 2008 season. A 3-year, $36 million contract is not crazy in today's MLB. It was a lot more money back then, and it was especially a lot of money for the Royals at that time. It was their second largest free agent deal until Kennedy signed. Like it was up there. So, but you probably remember his playing days a little bit.
No, second largest after Gilmesh. Yeah, sorry.
Right. You probably remember him actually playing a lot more than I do. I really don't. But like all I see is his time in Kansas City at a .4 FWAR. And that's where you're getting playing. Like, holy smokes, that is just not going to play at all.
That's not what I see for his time in Kansas City.
That's not what you see for his time in Kansas City?
I see -3 for his FWAR in Kansas City.
Okay. Well then, I have the wrong numbers.
Yeah.
Even worse.
Jose Guillen was a -0.8 his first year, a -2.2 his second year. And this is how bad the Royals were. He was still with the Royals for that at the beginning of that third season after a -2.2. And he played 106 games. So,
wow.
like, it wasn't even a Hunter Renfroe where they're like, well, we'll just try it and then we'll cut him immediately if it doesn't work. It was, it's 2010. What are we going to do?
Yeah, Jesus. Okay. I had the very wrong numbers on that then. I was looking at the wrong player.
He actually had 0.3 FWAR with the Royals in those 106 games because he finally got his hitting back up to league average with a 255, 314, 429 slash.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think it's wild that this sort of player, like you look at his career numbers, not great career numbers.
No.
Like 98 WRC plus, a 2.9 FWAR across more than 1,600 MLB games. Like he was not that great of a player. He did have some very good years. But
he kind of exploded when he turned 27. And looked really good until he turned 32, which was his first year with the Royals.
Obviously. Just great. But I think like that has to unquestionably be the worst contract from a Royals perspective. There is a close to. I mean, the only one that I could think of that rivals it from a position player is Omar Infante, honestly. But
there were reasons, I think, to believe that Omar Infante still had something. And they had to outbid the Yankees, so obviously the Yankees thought he was worth something.
Obviously.
I don't know. It's, I look at these free agent deals, and the Ian Kennedy one is one that stands out to me as like, you really thought that was the deal you should make? That was the 5-year, $70 million with a player opt-out. He had rejected the qualifying offer, so the Royals, did they have to give up a draft pick for that back then? I don't remember.
I don't know if they had to at that point. But that's even worse.
That was a deal where Ian Kennedy, let me pull up his numbers again. The numbers just didn't look like, give that guy 5 year, give that guy then the biggest free agent contract the Royals had ever handed out. And still the biggest true free agent contract the Royals have handed out, because again, I still think Alex Gordon is more of an extension than a free agent. let's see, he had pitched for the he'd pitched for the Padres in 2015, and he went 9-15 with a 4.28 ERA, a 3.61 SIERA for a 0.4 FWAR, and the Royals
Yeah.
gave him 5 years and 70. Now that didn't look terrible when he came to Kansas City in 2016, and he went 11-11 with a 3.68 ERA worth 2 FWAR, but things went down from there in a hurry.
Yeah, they
Best
really
season
did.
after that was his fourth season in Kansas City when he moved to the bullpen.
Yeah. And I think that's, if anything salvaged his time in Kansas City, that was it. Like there was a period where Ian Kennedy was considered an elite, like, closing option for many teams out there.
And of course, the Royals decided to hold on to him from 2019 when they lost 100 games to 2020. And he was awful in 2020. And if they traded him at the deadline in 2019, probably, especially if they would have eaten some money, which they wouldn't have under David Glass. I think, Glass still owned them in 2019 and bought them that offseason.
Yes.
They could have probably gotten something good for him if they traded him in 2019, but no dice.
They held on to him. Yeah, I know. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. At the end of it all, he had what was it? He had like 4.5 FWAR through his first 4 seasons. That 2020 season was not very kind to him at all. And that was like his big down year for the Royals.
Well, he was pretty bad in 2017 also.
That's fair. 5.38 ERA across 30 starts and 154 innings. That was a bad year, yes. There's no dice about that. That was a bad year. But I see that
weird because I remember he looked like he was bouncing back in 2018 and then he got hurt and fell apart again.
Right. But I see these numbers and, like, there are still worse performing players on a per dollar basis. Like that's what I look through this lens of. And I could go out there and say Chris Owings is the worst Royals free agent addition out there. I could take all the dunks on Chris Owings that I want to. But at the end of the day, he was signed as I think a 1 year, $3 million, somewhere in that range. And yeah, he amazingly had like more than -1 FWAR through the early part of the season. He was that bad. That was a failure. But I'm not going to put him as like the worst signing because there isn't a whole lot of context on $3 million.
Yeah, maybe on a dollar per WAR value, guys are worse than Ian Kennedy, but I look at Ian Kennedy and I go, man, like even at the time when the Royals signed him, because I was writing for Royals Review back then,
Mm-hmm.
like the conversation we all had was, what? It didn't make any sense and it didn't work out. So
it absolutely
I call that the worst one.
Well, there's a guy who I know I wasn't watching baseball critically at this time, but I think that he is up there for one of the worst free agent contracts out there in Royals history. Scott Elarton. I've said Elarton my whole life. Is that wrong?
Elarton. Yeah.
Is it Elarton? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just the Midwest shortening of last names that I'm suffering from. But like that's a guy who the Royals at that time were like, that was a good investment for them, even though it was only 2 years, $8 million. But still, he had a -2 FWAR across his time here. He had a 6.59 ERA and 29 starts across the 2006 and 2007 season. Like that's who I'm looking at. He walked more batters than he struck out in both seasons. Like he was giving up a lot of home runs in Kauffman Stadium. Like it was a bad pitcher, especially for a free agent pickup. It was even worse.
And I didn't remember quite how bad Scott was. The thing is, okay, so my entire opinion of Scott Elarton was formed from his 1999 season when he got some Cy Young votes that year. So when the Royals signed him in 2000, 7 years later, I was like, man, that's Scott Elarton. He was so good. And then I look at his numbers and I go, yeah, he was never good again. You were one of those dumb fans back in 2006 who didn't pay enough attention. And you saw a name that you recognized and you thought, boy, that's exciting. It was not exciting. Though,
no.
I do understand, like 2 years, $8 million total wasn't a lot of money even in 2006. And he had been a reasonable starter and he'd been an innings eater.
Yeah.
For Cleveland the year before. So And the Royals were so bad, they just needed guys to be on the field. So
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from, but also, like, I remember those teams, and things went really south in 2007. But in 2006, I remember, maybe I misremember, but I remember there being bright spots and thinking maybe he can figure this out again. I don't know.
I do. I'm still going down the list here from Cott. So if you go back to that, and up until this is the largest AAV listed contract at this time. And now that's not saying that this is perfect or verbatim or anything like that. But I bring this guy up because I solicited for questions on Reddit, and a lot of guys kept on bringing up this player, Juan Gonzalez, formerly of the Texas Rangers. Like that's where I know him from. I'm sure that's where a lot of people know him from. And you bring up Scott Elarton and you say, okay, the past is influencing my present opinion of him. And I'm sure a lot of folks fell victim to that with Gonzalez. He's a 2-time MVP. He was a multi-time all-star player before coming to Kansas City. And when the Royals added him on a 1-year deal, I think that you could look at that and say they're going to get a decent player out of him. And overall, they didn't. They only got 33 games out of him, a .5 BWAR, and listed
Negative
on
0.5
Cotton's.
BWAR.
He's that bad in the field, huh? If you look on this list from Cott's contracts, his 1-year, $4.5 million deal was the largest AAV listed deal here. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they had a couple of guys that were multiple years and more than that number, but AAV wise, it was the largest one at the time, which I found very surprising. It's crazy to think that a $4.5 million deal would lead in that area, but that just kind of goes to show how frugal Mr. Glass was for so many years, huh?
This was, I want to say this was shortly after he had bought the team, and they were still operating the way that they had when they were run by a trust, which had no money.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. The Greater Kansas City Foundation.
Yeah. Not to give him a pass, because obviously he did own the team outright, and he should have been. The 2005, I believe that was 2004. So 2005 was when Dayton Moore came in midseason, and that was a whole debacle the way he was hired and brought in, which left the Royals without a GM for the draft.
That's right.
Yeah. So 2004 was the last year before that, and things were bad in Kansas City. But they had looked, for those of us who were optimistic and didn't understand, this was before Moneyball, really.
Right. Yeah.
And so none of us normal fans had a clue, and we were like, in 2003 the Royals played a couple games over 500. They just needed a little bit more and they could go somewhere. And Juan Gonzalez, he wasn't good. He hadn't been good for a few years. He had a really good year for Cleveland in 2001, but he had he batted 294, 329, 572 in 2003 with the Rangers. And it's like, bring that to Kansas City. He'd hit 24 home runs, which was not that far off of the Royals' home run record at the time. I mean, he'd hit more than 40 multiple times earlier in his career. It looked like, that's the guy. He's going to come in here and he's going to solve a lot of our problems, and he's going to add a real thumper to the team alongside Mike Sweeney. And who else was with the 2000? Was Dye still with them in 2004? Beltran still with them?
I think Beltran should have been.
Beltran, Randa, he's going to add a thumper to that lineup. He was going to bring the home run pop, and he did not.
Nope.
That was another one where I could look at it and I'm like, I can see the logic here. You don't want to spend any money. The guy did hit well the year before, but yeah, it did not work out at all. And by all accounts, Jose Guillen and Juan Gonzalez were both poor influences in the clubhouse as well.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And like when I was trying to look into who Juan Gonzalez was a little bit more, it was an entirely different media environment then, entirely different reporting of players as people, especially. I found it interesting to see so much about him as a person, and it was a lot of negative stuff. So Are there any other really bad beat contracts that you can think of? I can, like my mind is like, oh well, Mark Davis was a super bad deal for what it was. Jason Hamill, like I remember being excited that the Royals signed Jason
Yeah.
Hamill.
Well, he was the best pitching free agent available when they needed to sign him. So I was like, all right, well, you did the right thing. Did not work.
And no, it did not work at all. One that I would really felt like I was, pinching pennies on was thinking that Jeremy Guthrie's deal was bad. Like he certainly didn't live up to expectations, but I think nowadays a 3-year, $25 million deal for Jeremy Guthrie's performance was not terrible, I guess.
No, and
He just got worse.
The thing was, he was not bad, and he was an absolute innings eater in 13 and 14. And
That's
he
where he
was
found his
bad
value.
in 15 is when things went belly up, unfortunately. And then he was still the Game 7 starter. No, that was 14. He was the Game 7 starter.
Yeah.
The Alex Rios one stands out to me as
Okay.
as one of the biggest AAVs the Royals have ever handed out, period. Not just even at the time, but period. He's one of those 8-digit AAVs. It was 1 year, 11 million. And a lot of people will say a 1-year contract's never bad. But Rios was this is actually, thinking it kind of looks like a trend for the Royals now. He was kind of a bounce back candidate with the Royals. He had a really bad 2014 with the Texas Rangers. He'd been really good in 2012 and 2013, but he was really bad in 2014. And the Royals said, we need an outfield bat to fix to really lengthen this lineup a little bit. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
They got Alex Rios for 111, and we all went, I don't think that's the guy. I think you needed to do something different. And yeah, it didn't work. He did, to be fair. I remember he looked pretty good for stretches at the beginning of the year. Then he got hit on the hand by a Minnesota Twins pitcher, broke his hand. I think it might have been Irvin Santana, actually.
Jeez.
And then he was terrible after he came back from the injury.
Gotcha.
There was also, that was some longtime Royals review people may remember, that was the year of the bone density argument.
What?
So there was this guy, Scott McKinney, who was a regular poster and kind of a troll on Royals Review. He no longer posts there.
Yeah.
And I actually joined him on this because sometimes I thought he was right. And I look back and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have joined that train. But he tried to argue that Alex Rios was injury prone, so therefore getting hit in the hand and having his hand broken was part of what we should have expected. And a lot of people were like, well, no, because that's not just an injury that you just get from playing. That's kind of a freak injury where you get hit on the hand with a pitch. And he said, well, when you get older, your bone density goes down, and he had a graph and all this stuff. It was very silly.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. And yeah, there was just this raging argument for days about bone density, the importance of bone density when deciding which free agents to sign.
Goodness gracious. It just makes my eyes roll a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it should. I can't say I was above it because I was absolutely participating in that argument. And again, I was absolutely participating on the side of, yes, bone density matters. So maybe that ruins your opinion of me, but that was also more than a decade ago. So I feel like I should get some slack for that.
Things change. Things absolutely change. If there's a guy out there that we missed or that you think is one of the worst Royals free agent contracts out there, make sure you drop us a line on social media, or you can comment on this episode on royalsreview.com, and we would love to hear your opinions on it. Now, I did say we were going to talk a little bit about Cole Ragans on this episode. Full transparency, because I like talking about those stuff that Jeremy and I have before we record. I did not want to lead off with this because I feel like ever since that Boston Globe report, if the Royals are in anybody's mouth, it is them talking about Cole Ragans going to the Boston Red Sox. Like that has been the Royals topic for about a week now. It feels like drowning in it. And we've seen some wild takes out there, but I wanted to start with Jeremy's opinion on this because you put out into the ether, I thought, a very well-written article explaining your position on the Cole Ragans trade scenario, and folks did not take it very well.
No, No, I think a lot of the pushback probably comes from Red Sox fans who don't think they should have to pay that much. This is a thing that always happens when you start talking trades. Is there is a large section of the fan base that thinks they should be able to trade away their bad players for another team's good players. It's absolutely something I fell into when I was younger. It just doesn't fly. So I think a lot of Boston fans are looking around and going, "Yeah, we want Cole Ragans. We're not going to give you that much for him. We'll give you a couple of guys in the low minors. Leave me alone."
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes sometimes. So
Sometimes.
I don't want to belittle them too much or whatever. But there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, the Red Sox aren't going." I wrote kind of 3 tiers of trade where I was like, this one is quote unquote fair according to what I'm looking at and what BTV says, the baseball trade values, that is. And then here's one where it's a little bit more of an overpay, and then here's one that's like a pretty big overpay, and I would only do the one that's a pretty big overpay. And
Right.
I will tell you up front, it's an overpay, but also I think that, and the biggest response, and this I got from a lot of people, probably even beyond the people who are like, well, we'll only trade our bad players for your good players, of a lot of people responding, the Red Sox aren't trading Roman Anthony, which is completely fair. I believe that that's accurate. The Red Sox are almost certainly not trading Roman Anthony. But I also believe that if you want a Cole Ragans, you want our untouchable, you're going to have to give up at least one of your untouchables.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's how it should go.
People don't understand. Cole Ragans is an untouchable. Don't tell, oh, he was hurt. He's always hurt. Is he actually going to be good? I don't care. He is one of the best pitchers in the American League in baseball, and pitchers get hurt. I'm not going to write him off because he got hurt last year. And I'm not going to let you force me to sell him at a discount or sell his contract at a discount because he got hurt last year. You want him, you got to pay for him like he's the ace that you're hoping you're getting.
Correct. And this is one reason why I didn't want to make this episode another reaction heavy or trade idea heavy, because I felt like we were still in the early stages of it before Thanksgiving. But now with the winter meetings, starting up next week, it feels like the trade proposals are getting out of control. I mean, I talked about it in rumblings for Wednesday morning. Someone talking about, oh yeah, let's do a Helio Ramos swap for Cole Ragans.
What? You could probably do 1-for-1 on those guys. What? No.
Yeah.
Word for word. Can't.
Word for word. And the whole basis of it was, oh well, they're both former All-Stars. Like,
and they both have 3 years of control left.
Like, come on.
These are not the same thing, guys.
No, they're not. But I wanted to ping the Ragans thing one time because there's a guy out there, TJ Stats.
Yeah.
I
use his apps a lot, and he's got some really good stuff, especially on pitching, but
he does
really good stuff.
Yes, a lot of data, really good visualizations. That's what when he started putting more stuff out on social media a few years ago, that's what caught my eye. So I highly suggest you go check him out.
His visualizations have completely changed the way that I look at pitching in a good way. Go. Like I feel like I much better grasp some of the advanced stuff about like pitch movement and spin rate and everything based on his visualizations. It really made it much more approachable. So if you're like, oh, I can't be bothered with this, I can't understand it. But he's got some articles that even explain like how his graphs work. So, and they're not dumbed down, but they're written really comprehensible. So I go to tjstats.ca, check him out. You won't regret it.
Exactly. So knowing all that, that's why when he put out a Ragans proposed trade, I listened. I read it in good faith. And
so far,
honestly,
far as I'm aware, he is neither a Red Sox nor a Royals fan. So this is as close to a neutral party as you're going to get here.
I agree. And while his proposed trade is not the Godfather trade that I have, I'm blanking. I believe was it Matt Vernon who said that? Oh, I think it was someone. Yeah, Matt Vernon on social media was calling it that, and that goes in line with what Jeremy's saying about trading away Ragans. Give me a trade offer that makes it hard to say no or impossible to say no. While this is not that, I think that this is a very realistic trade and very valid trade that does a lot of things for the Royals as well. So let me break this down. Royals send over Cole Ragans. That's it. Just Ragans. The Royals acquire outfielder Jarren Duran, left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison, and the outfielder known as the password.
Distinction Garcia.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I appreciate that. That's what the Royals get. They get those three players. I look at that, and from a narrative perspective, I see the Royals getting the everyday left fielder that they wanted. They get a high ceiling left-handed starting pitching prospect who is already in the majors, and they get a near MLB ready outfield prospect as well. I think that does a lot for the Royals. Does it make the losing Ragans hurt less? Not really, but I could see this happening.
So my first thought when I saw this trade was, this is not that dissimilar from my quote-unquote fair trade that I offered of Ragans for Duran, Bayo, and Whitlock.
Yeah.
You're swapping out a relief pitcher for a high-level outfield prospect, and you're swapping out, we talked about swapping out Bayo for Peyton Tolley.
Yes, we did.
So instead, you're swapping him out for the former San Francisco guy whose name I can never remember.
Kyle Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison. I keep wanting to say Kyle Freeland, and I'm like, that's Rocky's guy.
Yeah.
Kyle Harrison. It's still not good enough for me. Just in the same way that Duran, Bayo, and Whitlock is a good trade for the Royals, and a lot of Red Sox fans would say I'm not even doing that one, is not enough for me. I think you're right that it's pretty close to fair, but again, I'm looking for, I like that description, the Godfather trade. Make me an offer I can't refuse.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the only way that you make Royals fans happy as well.
Well, and I think that's the only way you're going to make JJ Piccolo pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Even in the article that the Globe writer put out, in which, by the way, I didn't realize this until this morning, he quotes Dayton Moore from several weeks ago saying that Cole Ragans is not off the table. Even in that article, Piccolo says you'd have to really blow us away.
Yeah. And see, hold on, let me grab the wheel real quick, because I reached out to someone about this quote, because I was sitting on duty on the ship, and I was looking over this quote over and over again, and like how it was framed in the Globe article, and I came away from it like, this doesn't sound exactly like JJ Piccolo, if that makes sense. Like, there's just something that was a little off, and so I straight up inquired with someone like, hey, is this a legitimate quote? Like, is this genuinely representing what Piccolo said? The response I got back was that the quote was accurate. It didn't say anything else about how it was framed, though. So take that with a grain of salt. And, I think that any good GM would say that anyone is available to a degree. Any good GM would at least listen.
If you offer Paul Skeens and O'Neill Cruz and 5 of your top 5 prospects, they probably even trade Bobby Witt Jr.
Probably so. Holy smokes. But that's good baseball business at the end of the day. So,
but you're not going to offer that because you're not. It just doesn't work.
Right. Exactly. So, I think while this is a fair trade, I don't think it'll happen. I don't think the Royals will trade away Cole Ragans at all.
One of the things I think people, especially in the Ragans case, aren't considering enough is, yes, there's how much value Ragans has, how many years of control left he has, how likely he is to get hurt. But there's also, can you replace Cole Ragans? How many guys that can do what Cole Ragans can do exist? And the answer is not many.
Nope.
How many guys can do what Jarren Duran does? Not a lot, but a lot more than can do what Cole Ragans does.
Yeah.
So they're not even close to equivalent. Even if they look like they're kind of similar in terms of wins above replacement in some ways, they're not equivalent, because the way Ragans does it is something that just cannot be duplicated. Whereas what the things that Duran does have been and are being duplicated by a number of players. Are they all available? No, but they're out there.
Yeah, that they are. So highly suggest go. Jeremy already dropped the link. I'll drop the link to this article specifically so you can go read it. Go read the reasonings behind this trade from TJ Stats. Go check it out. If you got an opinion on it, you can reach out to us. Jeremy, that's all I got on a Royals related front. Do you have anything that I'm missing? Like, just not a lot of news, and that's okay.
No, hopefully Lesky put out a newsletter this morning and indicated I can't remember if it was in a comment response to me or if it was in the article, that he said something like, hopefully we'll be breaking down a big move in the next week. So, like you said, the winter meetings are next week. Fingers crossed we'll be able to stop talking about potential Cole Ragans trades and start talking about the actual trades that have happened, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're getting hyped for a new Royals outfielder and or second baseman who are going to really just drive this team to the playoffs next year. And hopefully we're not doing oh my gosh, it's Alex Rios. It's Jose Guillen. Why did we do this to ourselves?
Yeah. And it is two very different outcomes. There's a chasm between the two, I will say. But as always, this stuff pops up. If we're not talking about it, then we're talking about it up on royalsreview.com. So go check out the site over there. All right. Do you got a review? Got a review tonight? Okay, what you got?
So first of all, I want to shout out Cinema Wins YouTube channel. I watch almost all of his videos, and I just watched his Sinners video today, and I get it now. Now I understand. Like, I was watching the wrong part of the story in Sinners. So it really was just going over my head. And now I get it. And now I appreciate the story as much as I do the technical aspects. So really, I hope you'll watch Sinners. I hope you'll check out Cinema Wins. I know Cinema Wins also got me to watch Knives Out, which was a movie I was not interested in and then absolutely fell in love with after watching his video on Knives Out. I was like, I should go watch that movie. And I did, and I loved it. So it's a great channel if you're not to fall in love with the movies you love all over again. But also sometimes you can watch movies, if you're not afraid of spoilers, you can watch his videos on movies you haven't seen and realize, oh, I should watch that movie actually.
Gotcha.
And so my review this week is going to be Power Wash Simulator 2. I finished it, and it's almost as good as the original. It's hard for me to make true comparison because when I jumped into the original, it had already released several DLCs, so it feels like there was a lot more content when I played the original, and obviously they released a lot of DLC after I started, so there's even more content now. So it feels like I got a lot more bang for my buck playing the original Power Wash Simulator, but what is there right now is still really good, and I am super excited. I'm going to be a day one adopter of the DLC that they do put out, and they always do. They'll have some free DLC, which is going to be just expanding kind of the world that they've already built of Muckingham and Caldera County, and then they'll put out some paid DLC that's adapts licensed properties. So like for Power Wash Simulator 1, they had Final Fantasy 7, they had Wallace and Gromit, they had SpongeBob, they had all kinds of good stuff, which was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing both kinds of DLC and really just continuing to Power Wash. Honestly, I'm probably at this point going to go back to Power Wash Simulator 1 because it's been longer since I've power washed the things there. So if I'm going to repeat, I'll repeat there. But, they messed with the formula a little bit. But the one thing I didn't like that was a big deal to me was the control scheme got changed, but you can change it back pretty easily and then be on your way. So yeah, Power Wash, if you like Power Wash Simulator, Power Wash Simulator 2 is more fun. If you think of it as a supersized DLC, I think you're going to be good.
Okay, there you go. I like that framework of it. My review is primarily answering. Sorry, I completely forgot to answer this question from Reddit.
Right.
I missed on that, so that's my fault. But I know that Royal Sully, he listens to the podcast a lot, so I want to answer it. What free agent rumor from years prior do we think would have actually moved the needle? So here's the issue with that answer, not the question, with the answer. The weird part about it is the Royals have not been in on a major free agent in a long time.
I mean, the last couple of years, but not before that.
Right. And I will, even about the last couple of years, I would say things did not get very deep. Jurickson Profar did get pretty deep according to reports, but
Anthony Santander.
Yes, Anthony Santander. But those two guys, I know Santander had an injury-riddled season. Mm-hmm. Profar had the suspension, and he had his own flaws.
And you have to wonder how good he's going to be if he has to stop taking the PEDs now.
Correct. That's very true. like I went through I just did a quick look at some of the rumors that we know of regarding free agency. There weren't a lot of impact free agents that the Royals were in on. And like, I think that's one reason why folks can get a little bit more excited about these Royals is because they have openly expanded payroll. They have been more aggressive. ESPN had a very long article talking about like trading away folks and chances like that. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, it talks about small market teams. Who are small market teams primed to like increase spending? Kansas City Royals were one of the two named teams, like two quoted teams, excuse me.
I think that's one of the things Royals fans can be excited about, like you're saying right now, is because the Royals are in the rumors. For so many years, they weren't in any of the rumors. Now they're in the rumors. For them to be in that many rumors, where there's smoke, there's usually fire.
Usually so, yes. So I wanted to answer that question with kind of I think it's passing it off a little bit, but it's just the reality of it, and it's a sad reality.
I'll give you an almost answer, which is the rumors that they were going to get Taylor Ward last offseason would have made a difference in 2025.
Made a huge difference. Massive difference.
Yeah.
And that was
they would have been a playoff team probably with Taylor Ward.
Probably so. I remember there were trade rumors regarding Alec Boehm with the Philadelphia Phillies. That was one, and Ward. Like those were the two big trade names that I remember.
Brett Beatty came up a lot too, and he would have been huge for the Royals.
Yeah, he would have. I mean, Brett Beatty over Jonathan India. Like how much different does this team look in that instance? So wanted to answer that question.
They had added Jonathan India already, so maybe it would have been Jonathan. Well, they would have tried to play Massey at first. I don't know. It would have been wonky because Maikel Garcia, you still assume he breaks out. How do you play everyone at that point? Would have been interesting to figure out. Maybe one of them maybe India gets stuck in the outfield, whether he likes it or not, or maybe Garcia moves to the outfield.
Well, remember that was also when they were when they were playing Garcia in center field. So maybe that's how that would have looked.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of food for thought there and a lot of what ifs. But we're dead focused on 2026. The next podcast episode, honestly, Jeremy, I'm sorry, the next two podcast episodes really going to be Rule 5 heavy, depending on the results. We got to take one last look at the Rule 5 class and kind of some guys that we think the Royals could add or would fit if the Royals add, and then we'll go down the results the following episode. But like Leslie said, hopefully soon we are talking about a big move on the Kansas City Royals front. So make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing or following us wherever you're listening. And like I always say, go check out the dang website. I say it a lot for a reason. It is worth it. But that's going to do it for us today, folks. It's a cold night out here in Virginia. Like I said, we're supposed to get some snow tonight, so we'll see if that happens. But yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm ready for the hot stove to hit a new level, and we're here to talk about it when it impacts the Kansas City Royals. I am Jacob Milham. They're Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, go Royals.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.